What else? Who else might I be? Am I a boy or a girl?
Boy.
I'm a girl. Any ideas?
Soldier?
Joan of Arc. Do you know who Joan of Arc is?
No idea.
You have no idea. Why would Joan of Arc be at Patriots camp?
Sit down though.
Why do you think Joan of Arc would be at Patriots camp? Joan of Arc lived in France in the year 1412. Okay? 1412 is way before Christopher Columbus. How many of you guys know what year Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue? Okay. Good job. So way before Christopher Columbus was even born, Joan of Arc was around, okay? So when Joan of Arc was about 12 years old, raise your hands if you're close to 12. You're 11. Okay, great. When she was 12 years old, she was visited by 3 angels. She was visited by Saint Michael, the archangel. She was visited by Saint Catherine, and she was visited by Saint Margaret. Saint Catherine and Saint Margaret are patron saints of France. They were very well known. They fought the battles themselves, and Saint Catherine converted thousands of people to Christianity. She was beheaded by Maxentius in 640 AD. So these angels come to Joan of Arc, and what do you think they tell her? What do they say? They tell her to do 3 things. They say, you know what? We want you to listen to your mom and dad. Is that bad or good? We want you to go to church and confession. Now, confession is when they would go and they would confess their sins, and they would take sacrament, and they would repent. So does that sound bad or good? Okay, and they said, we want you to be good. Just be good and tell the truth and don't lie. Do you think that sounds good or bad? Good. So what happened is she went to the preacher in her town and she told him what she had seen. And he said, hey, they sound like good angels. They sound like great things. I would listen to them and do what they asked, okay? And so she did, and they came to visit her more often. They would come and they told her that she had a special mission, that she was sent by God to save France. As she began to get older, when she was 16 years old, they told her that she was to join the army and to go and to meet the Dauphin. So she didn't want to go to the army. In those days, when you were a girl and you went to the army, you were not a good girl. So she didn't want to go, and her dad didn't want her to go, but the voices were like, nope, it's time to go. Your mission is to save France, and I need you to do this, so it's time to go. It's time to go. And they would tell her over and over again, come on, we gotta go, we gotta go. And she was really scared, and she didn't want to go. At 17 years old, when she turned 17, she didn't want to go. But there was this guy, and here's his picture. His name is Charles VII. He's not very... because he is the 7th king of France. So, but at that time, he wasn't a king. He was a little scrawny guy. He was sickly all the time, and he was really kind of ugly. And people didn't think he looked like a king. But you know what? His dad had died, and so had all of his brothers. And he was 11th in line for the throne. So they thought, oh, we'll just put him away in a castle, and he will never be king. So we won't even have to worry about him. But guess what? Everybody died. So King Henry V lives in England, and he thinks he's supposed to be the king. And at this time, England and France had been fighting for 100 years. And King Henry had brought all of his guys over here, and they are battling with the French, and the French are losing. They are losing. They have no land, and this guy has 4 gold coins called écus in the bank. That's equivalent to $400. And he's poor, and he doesn't have any money to feed his army, and he doesn't know what to do. Because they are losing, and the English are going to pretty soon take over France. So he goes into his room one night, and he decides to say a prayer. And he prays to God, and he says, okay, I know I'm just a person, and I'm not very good, and I'm a sinner, but don't punish my people for my sins. So if I'm supposed to be the rightful king of France, send someone to help me. I need help. I don't have any money. I don't have any land. Nobody's joining the army. We're kind of sucking pond water. I really do need some help. Okay? At the same time, up in the north, in Lorraine, is a little Joan of Arc. Here, you can hold that. Just hold it still. And the voices are saying to her, go, it's time to go. Go, you need to go. We need you to go now. We need you to go now. And they're making her go, and she doesn't really want to go. But she gets a cousin, and she's going to go see him. But in those days, you couldn't just go up and knock on the castle door and say, hey, I'm Joan of Arc, and I'm here to save France. Because do you think he would believe her? No, you have to go through the proper channels. So she has to go to a general. A general by the name of Baudricourt. General Baudricourt.
Your sword.
So she goes to this general, and she gets there, and she's walked for a month to get there, and she's with her cousin, and she says, I'm supposed to go and see the Dauphin. And Baudricourt laughs at her. He's like, are you kidding me? You're like a girl. And he tells her cousin, take her home, give her a spanking, make her get married, and get her out of here. Women don't join the army. So they start to head home, and about halfway there, the angels come, and they're like, whoa, turn around and go back. It's your job to go save France. You're the one God sent to do this. So they turn around and they go back to Baudricourt. He cannot believe that she's come back. He's just furious. And she says, well, that's okay, because tomorrow you're going to go on a really big battle. And when you go on this battle, you're going to lose really bad. And there's going to be a lot of people that get killed. Well, he doesn't believe her, but they go to battle, and guess what happens?
That happened.
He loses. Yeah, he loses. And he comes back to camp, and he's like, okay, maybe you were right. So he agrees to write a letter and to send a messenger with her. And they're going to send her to see this guy right here. So she gets the letter, and they head off to Paris to see this guy. And they have to send her to a school because they want to examine her, and they want to question her and make sure she's really who she says she is. So they get all of these really smart dudes together in a room. And they sit her in a room, and they ask her question after question after question about everything. And she has never read a book. They didn't even have Bibles back then to read in their home. She hasn't read the Bible. She's never been to school because she was born on a farm, and they didn't go to school like you guys do. So they start to ask her all these questions, and they're like drilling her, and guess what? She answers every question. In fact, they said she answered every question better than the smartest guy they could find. They tried everything, and finally they say, okay, I think she's the real thing. So there's a legend in France about a girl that will come from Lorraine and save France, and she's supposed to be called the Maiden. So they start to believe that she's the Maiden. So they send her to meet the Dauphin. And they send her to court, but they play a trick on her. They dress him up as a courtier, and they dress some other guy up as the king and put him on the throne, and they think, you know, she doesn't have the internet. She's never seen a picture of him, so we don't think she's going to know who the king is. So we're going to test her, right? But they send her into the court, and she walks straight up to him. She just passes by everybody and doesn't even pay attention to the guy on the throne because he's a fake. She walks straight up to him, and she kneels down. And she says, most gracious Dauphin, I am here, sent by God to save France. And then she tells him a secret. They don't know for sure what she told him, but they believe that she tells him about the prayer that he prayed earlier, about 6 months ago. And then she's like, hey, I know about your prayer, and God sent me to help you. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm the Dauphin and I prayed for help, would you be thinking that a 17-year-old girl would come and help? I would be thinking, what? You sent a girl? Right? In those days, girls weren't that great. I know. It's not good, huh? Okay, so, but he believes her because she knows about his prayer. And so they give her armor, they give her an army, and they give her a banner. A banner. It's a white banner. It has God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost on it. 3 people on her banner. And they say, okay, we're going to go off to battle. So she gets her army, but she says to the army, wait. If we're going to be God's army and fight God's battle, then you have to be God's army. So no more swearing, no gambling. She kicks out all the gamblers, and she kicks all the women out of camp because the women that joined the army were not good women. And she tells the man that you need to pray and you need to go to confession and you need to be good. Okay? Otherwise, God won't help us. So they start to do this, and they start to be really good. And so they're going off to battle, and she says, wait. I need the sword of St. Catherine. And they're like, that is really dumb, because St. Catherine lived like in 640 AD. 700 years ago. We don't even know where the sword of St. Catherine is. Now, who's she been talking to? St. Catherine. So she says, well, you know what? When we're on our way to this place, there's a church, and behind the pulpit and underneath the floorboards is the sword of St. Catherine. So she sends a couple people there ahead, and they look underneath, they look underneath the floorboards, and guess what they find? They find a sword wrapped in leather. And when they take it out, it's covered in rust, but they tap it on the ground and the rust falls off, and it's the sword of St. Catherine. And they're amazed, because they're like, we had no idea where this was. So they believe that she's being led by St. Catherine. So they take her the sword, but did you know she never killed one person with her sword? When the English are putting her on trial, they say, well, so why did you need a sword? Because she's a girl, right? Why do you need a sword? And how many people did you kill? And she said, I never killed anybody with my sword, but I found it really useful for bopping people on the heads and chasing them out of the camp when they were being really bad. So she would bop you on the head with it and chase you out of camp if you were not being good. Does that sound like your mom? George, your mom did chase you with a sword when you're being really bad. So they go, after a couple of battles, they begin to win, and they're winning, and people are hearing that they're winning, and they think of this legend of this maid that's supposed to save France, so more and more men start to join the army, and they get to a place called Orleans, and that's a city where they have to capture this place from the English, because they need to have the Dauphin crowned at that place. Every king of France has always been crowned in that city. So they capture it and they win the battle, and they send for Charles to come and be crowned the King of France. So this enrages the English people. The English people are so mad. They are just mad. They have to prove that Joan of Arc is a fake. Because if she was sent by God to help King Charles be the king, then that means King Henry's not the king. Okay? So they capture her and they burn her at the stake when she's 19 years old. Okay? But she never denies anything. They try her for actually being a heretic. In those days, a heretic was pretending to be something that you were not. And they finally tried her for dressing like a boy, kind of, is what they tried her for. It wasn't for hearing voices, because they actually believed in that. However, the reason I tell you the story of Joan of Arc is because what would have happened if the English would have won and captured France? Who would have been in charge of France? Who would have been in charge? The English. So who were the revolutionary people here in America fighting in 1776? Who were they having a war with? The English. They were fighting the English. So, at the Battle of Trenton, who knows the story about the Battle of Trenton? Anybody? Battle of Trenton. Okay, the Battle of Trenton, it's winter and it's cold, and George Washington's going to cross over the river. Benjamin Franklin is in France, and he's begging the French to come and help America. And they won't. They say, no, we hate the English, we don't want to come. But he says, please, he makes a deal with them. If we win one battle, will you come and help us? And they say, Okay, if you win one battle, we will come and help you. So, back in America, George Washington is fighting the Battle of Trenton, and up until this time, from July to December, they are big losers. They haven't won one battle at all. A big loser, yes, you got it right, big loser. So they're gonna go fight the Battle of Trenton, and they win. And they capture all these Hessians, and they capture all this ammunition, and George Washington quickly writes a letter to Benjamin Franklin and says, hey, guess what? We won the Battle of Trenton, and this is what happened. And a month later, Benjamin Franklin gets the letter, and he takes it to the French king, and he says, look, we won a battle. You promised if we won one battle, you would come and help. And so the French decide that they will come and help America fight the Revolutionary War. And that's how France came to help us. Now, if Joan of Arc had not helped to save France in 1412, I believe that France wouldn't have been there to help save America in 1776. So I believe that God actually told Joan of Arc back in 1412 to go and help France for a greater purpose. And that's why we tell you the story about Joan of Arc and how Joan of Arc helped to save America. And that's all it. That's it. Isn't that cool?